Welcome, everyone. Good morning. I'm so thrilled to invite you here to the Center for the Advancement of Women in Communication at Rowan University. I am the center's director, Julie Haynes. We are beyond thrilled today to have Karen Mazur, TV writer and producer, with us. I will thank you so much. She's joining us from sunny California, where I hear it's 70 degrees today for those of us in New Jersey. And pardon my voice, I think half of the people I've met have had bronchitis. Today is in the 50s and raining, so we appreciate you being here. It is the beauty of a Zoom call, though, so you can be cuddled up in your bedroom or your home under the covers and still join us for this fantastic programming. Our center is an affiliate of the Copenhagen Center for the Advancement of Women in Communication at Florida International University. We're thrilled to have Dr. Copenhagen with us today as well. So thank you, Dr. Copenhagen, for being with us. We also have Dr. Sandy Tweedy, who is the Dean of the Rick Edelman College of Communication and Creative Arts. So thank all of you for being here. We really appreciate it. Today, I will introduce Karen Mazur to you. Very, very fascinating resume, and I'm sure all of you will know the shows that she has been a part of. And then we're going to be doing pretty much a Q&A. We have solicited questions from students. We have the Diana King Masters in Television Studies, and Professor Kim Acast is with us as well today, so thank you for that. So I know we have some master's students who are joining us, and we have also solicited questions from other individuals. So we have some questions that the students have for Karen. And then also, if you have a question that you think of, if you would like to put it in the chat and we have time to get to that, we will certainly happy to entertain those as well. So without further ado, let me introduce Karen Mazur. Karen Mazur is a television writer and producer with 20 years plus of experience. Most recently, she was a writer, consulting producer for the David E. Kelley pilot Avalon for ABC. Mazur is best known for her work on the DC comic series Supergirl, the CBS crime drama Criminal Minds, which I know my students have watched, the military drama Army Wives on Lifetime, and NBC's Emmy Award-winning medical drama ER. And I think all of us have watched ER or know ER, and what a fantastic show. She began her writing career in comedy on the CBS sitcom Cosby. A former network radio news journalist and talk show producer in New York City, Mazur also worked as a speechwriter and created award-winning public service campaigns for ABC Television Network, and later served as ABC's Director of Community Relations. And I think a lot of our students will probably have questions about that as well. Mazur graduated magna cum laude from Rowan, formerly Glassboro State College. So we're thrilled that she's an alumni of ours with a BA in journalism. She was a reporter and production editor on The Wit, a WGLS FM disc jockey, and a member of the WGLS news team, co-anchoring a daily 3-hour morning news and sports program. Mazur is proud to have been the first female station manager at WGLS and was inducted into WGLS's Hall of Fame in 2014. She is also a member of the advisory board of the Rick Edelman College of Communication and Creative Arts. Welcome, welcome, Karen. Thrilled to have you with us.
That was a lot. I'm
You have a lot.
Excited to be here. I forget about all those things. It's like different jobs throughout the years. But I found, just as you're saying that, the one thread through it all was writing.
Yes.
Whether it was journalism or public relations or television writing, it just all came back to writing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And storytelling, right? Storytelling as
exactly.
well.
Whether it's newspaper telling a story or an episode of a television show, it's all telling a story in a different way.
I think one of the things that's great about our College of Communication and Creative Arts is we refer to ourselves as a storytelling college. And a lot of schools have their writing programs in English, rhetoric and composition programs. But I think it's always so great that we have a writing arts program that's specifically dedicated to writing arts. I have twins. I think I mentioned I have 3 children, twins that are seniors in high school right now. Mm-hmm. And one of mine is really interested in creative writing and looking into the writing arts. And so it's just so fantastic to have that program there.
I know. And we were just mentioning now there's a master's in writing, and I wish If there was one when I was there, I would have taken that course.
Right? We have an MA in writing and we have the MA in television studies. And writing in general essential. I think it's interesting because I'm in communication studies. I'm a rhetorical critic by training. I wanted to be an English major. I always tell the students that I was an English major, but back when I went to college, you had to stand in line to register. And it was an all day affair. And you stood there. And by the time I got up to take my English classes, they were always
I was
gone. And so
closed, right? Yeah.
but I do rhetorical criticism, which is similar. But I think a lot of our students get into communication and don't think they're going to have to write a lot, and then it's a really eye-opening. I think they think a lot of it is oral communication, which it certainly
Hmm.
is, but I don't think that they realize that so much is going to be writing. Writing is central to all of it.
It
Absolutely.
is. And if you could put
Absolutely.
two sentences together and they make sense and there's no typos, which is a bane of mine. I just typos, just check your spelling.
Yes.
Um, it could take you to a lot of places. And that's what I found with a lot of the jobs I had, that it was writing that they were looking for. Someone who could write got me into
Mm.
things, and then you can learn whatever the industry or the job is. But the writing really helped get you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for saying that because professors say that all the time to their students, and I think they'll sort of roll their eyes. They're like, sure, I'm going to have to write when I'm, but you really will have to write.
Yeah.
I have lots of questions about writing, including AI, which we've talked about before. First, though, I know a lot of our students are really interested in how you got to where you are. Like, what did, um, we could go back to what like courses you took and stuff too, but
Sure.
I think first if we could just start about so you graduated from Glassboro State College, then what happened?
Then
If you don't
what?
mind taking a few minutes.
Well, I moved home, which was like, you're away for 4 years and all of a sudden you're home. So that's a big adjustment. And I didn't have a job, and I was working at a department store. And a friend of mine from Glassboro had said she's working in New York at this brand new radio network called RKO. And they were looking for desk assistants. And she gave them my name. Um, and I went in, and it was a new network, a new news network, and I got the job, a desk assistant. I worked 12:30 in the afternoon to 8:30 at night, taking the bus from New Jersey, landing
Mm.
in Port Authority. And at the time, 42nd Street was not
No,
the Disneyland it is now. It
no.
a lot of drug addicts and prostitutes, and it was a little scary running back and forth. But I did it, to get into the business. Um, and I worked there for a long time, and actually learned a lot about news. I learned so much. I worked on WGLS and was on the news team, but just 2 weeks on the job, seeing professionals do the job, like I felt good because I got a good background at GLS and at all the radio broadcasting courses I took. But it was just so exciting to have that first job and doing that. And I got promoted to like off the desk. And the desk at the time was, you were ripping wire copy. The news didn't come to the reporters and the anchors on their computers. It was actually UPI and AP teletype
Mm.
paper. You ripped off these big machines and you handed out all the
Wow.
stories to all the anchors, so they could write their stories on IBM Selectric typewriters. There were no computers then. um, and hourly newscasts, and I got to do some little broadcasting myself. I became a news editor, where I would actually call Julie up, say, and she was a source, and I would do an interview with her on the phone, record her and edit it, and then the anchors would use news clips and news actualities in their broadcasts of Julie commenting on something. Again, at the time, no computers, so it was a phone to reel tape. We used razor blades to cut the tape and put and glue it, not glue it together, but tape it together. And that's how we came up with these clips. It's all on computers now, I know. And then from there, I really enjoyed that, but I wanted something more. And I started, again, it's always your classmates and the friends that you have right now may help you in your future of getting jobs. So my one friend who called me about this I would not have known about that unless my friend from Glassboro had told me about this entry-level job. So my next job was through another friend who worked at WOR Radio, which is a huge powerhouse radio station in New York City. They were looking for a talk show producer for one of their on-air people. And I got the job doing that. So I was producing talk shows every day, which was a lot of fun, meeting a lot of authors, coming up with brainstorming, coming up with ideas of what would make a really fun radio call-in show. So from there, I did that. They had, after, I don't know how many years I was there, but you, again, all along the way, you're learning, but you're making contacts, you're networking, so that the people you maybe, you know, I still kept in touch with the people at RKO, even though I had a new job. From there, I went, that was a WOR. From there, I went to a national talk show for ABC radio network. Again, somebody was leaving. They knew of me. Do you want this job? Come on over. And that was a 4-hour talk show that I did, booking guests. But after a while, you kind of get burnt out. Like, I couldn't read the newspaper without saying, oh, that would be a good story.
Right.
I was always like, I have to get that guest first. You know, it was like, oh, you know, what's the latest thing? You had 4 hours a day that you had to fill. You couldn't have dead time. You always had to have something going on. So I got burned out after a little while. Was looking for a new job. And again, somebody had called me and said, hey, there's this magazine, I won't mention the name, looking for an editorial publicity director. Got the job and I hated it. And I don't think I was very good at it, because I was pitching the stories of the magazine to radio and TV, when I realized I wanted to be on the other side and being the person in radio and TV that got to decide what was on the air. Left that job. And I needed a job. So I was doing some freelance work, and the man I was dating at the time had worked at ABC Television Network. And at the time, they used to have job postings. And there was a job posting for a writer at the ABC Television Network in the Office of Communication. And they did speeches and they did public service campaigns. They did a lot of internal campaigns with the ABC TV affiliates around the country. And they were, you know, I had an interview, and they were really interested in getting more involved in radio. And because of my radio background with WGLS and all the talk show producing, I got the job. And I was there for like 10 years, and rose through the ranks from a manager up to the director of community relations for ABC Television Network, where we did a lot of, and I could talk about that later, but public service campaigns and speech writing. Again, it was the writing that can get you through all that. My journalism background really helped me with that. But at the time, Disney was coming in, and my bosses were leaving, and I could have stayed, but I really wanted to write television. Part of my job as director of community relations, I would go out to California, and I would meet with the ABC entertainment executives to talk about TV shows that might be educational, that we could create viewer guides for teachers. Mm-hmm. But I always got so excited doing that. And I would also, was my first introduction to TV production when I started working there. I got to write and produce public service spots, PSAs on like Don't Drink and Drive. And we had a big literacy campaign called Project Literacy US. And I would go out to California and I would produce these PSAs with ABC TV celebrities, like about read to your children and the importance of reading. And got to edit them and really got into that. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. So when Disney was coming in, again, another friend told me about Fox Television was trying to do a late night soap opera. And they needed a writer's assistant. Now, this was an entry-level job, and I had been working for years. So it was I was really overqualified. And that's what I had the interview, and these two head writers had said, "You're too overqualified." And I said, "I know." But I didn't want to be 65 years old saying I woulda, coulda, shoulda. I just didn't want that regret. I wanted to take the risk, take the less money, and try and see if I could do this. And they gave me the job, and the pilot it didn't work out. Fox just didn't want to do it. But in the same building was the Cosby. It wasn't the Huxtable one. He did a second one with Felicia Rashad, Dougie Doug. It was for CBS. And I went downstairs, and at that time you printed your resume and you walked downstairs, and I gave it to them, and they luckily had an opening. Somebody was leaving for a script coordinator. And they're like, you know how to do that, right? I was like, absolutely. I had no idea how to do that because you had to use screenwriting software. And so I was like, oh, sure, I know how to do that. And I just figured I could figure it out. You know, I went to Glassboro, I graduated. You know, if you're in school, you're smart. You can figure things out. So I got the manual, figured it out how to use the software, and it all worked out. They never knew that I didn't know what I was doing when I first got the job. And that's really how it started my career. You know, I won't bore you anymore, but that's how I got there. It was always through writing and always through connections. And I think maybe some luck in there too, people leaving just as I'm looking for something new.
That's fantastic. I don't know if you would, I mean, I love, we've talked briefly before, and I love your attitude about not having regrets.
Yeah.
And I know some of the students wanted to know, were there obstacles that you had faced before, or were there certain times that you did something that an opportunity that you wish you'd taken that you can tell our students about?
Yeah. To me, if you try something, a job or a move somewhere or whatever, and it doesn't work out, you didn't fail. You tried it and you learned something from it, but you tried it, you didn't fail. I think failing is not trying. If you don't give yourself a shot at something. And sometimes, you know, I was lucky whether I could afford to do it or I had the support, and a lot of people, you know, have different circumstances. But one story I think I told Julie was when I was at Glassboro, my junior year, I wanted to do the semester abroad, and it was in England, and I got chosen to do that, and I was going to go. But then I started thinking, oh, that's 2.5, 3 months away. I'm going to miss all the fun. Oh, I started dating a guy. Oh, you know, that's going to break up. Nobody's going to remember me after 3 months. Oh, it's going to be horrible. So I backed out of it, you know, and stayed and had a great time at Glassboro. But I was such a regret that I didn't take that opportunity to go, you know, 3 months away. What's 3 months in, like, think about it, what's 3 months in your entire lifetime? You know, missing what's happening at Glassboro. It was like, I could have had all these adventures in England. Think of the people you can meet, the lifelong friends you can meet, just the experiences, just the traveling, getting out of your town. Even if you can't go overseas, just going to another state, going to another city and seeing the sights and learning the people and the culture and things. So years later, it was 2016, I finally got to England, had a great time, but part of me is like, what could have happened if I had gone just that 3 months, junior year, gone and the things that I could be using in my writing now from the experiences that I had then. So I think what happens is we get scared and we worry about what other people will think of us, or like nobody's, I want to say nobody's thinking of you. Everybody just thinks about themselves. They really do. And don't worry what other people think. Just, you know, be true to yourself. If you want to try something, try it. Again, if it doesn't work out, you're not a failure. You tried. It's the people that are saying, oh, don't try it, or just, you know, happy with what they're doing. If they're not happy, that's who I would pity, you know, like, so don't have any regrets. Just try anything you can. If you can afford to do that, if your circumstances allow you to do that, just, you know, step out of your comfort zone. Just, you know, even if it's scary, I was scared in a lot of that stuff. Like, what am I doing? But if it doesn't work out, something else will come along. So it really will work out for you.
It's such great advice. There's several things you said that really resonated with me that I think is important for our students, and frankly, for our female students in particular, because I think women have been conditioned to be people pleasers. It's nothing innate in us. I think it's just the culture that has particularly for women of a certain generation. I
Yeah.
think we're seeing a change in our students now, which is great. But I still see it. I still see it in my students, even in the writing in some of my students. That it just popped in my head, which is fascinating. Sometimes
Hmm.
in the students writing, I teach senior seminars, so they have to write like a undergraduate thesis, and they back into the claims that they're making. So this is rhetorical analysis that they have to do. And it's their opinions, but it's The Bride of Frankenstein, because I teach a class called Gender and Horror that I love. The Bride of Frankenstein.
I'd take that. That sounds
I'd love to
fabulous.
have you. Like The Bride of Frankenstein does X. Like they don't make those claims. And so they'll start off and they like what I call it's like they back into the claim. And so
Hmm.
sometimes around there, and then I realized that it was primarily my female students who were doing it. And when I told them, this is the claim, like make the claim in the paper first and then support it. Like that's the best way to write it. Like you're making, but they're unsure of themselves. They don't want to make that bold claim. And
Hmm.
I'm 53 years old and I'm still a people pleaser. I have a lot of therapy that I'm undoing the people pleasing. Right. So we
Thank
have
you
a
for
lot of that.
sharing, Julie.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. But it's like being like this idea of being bold and taking risks.
But it's very hard. It's still hard for me too. And I can just imagine if you're 17, 18, 19, 25, it's still hard. You're like, don't want to be judged. People, do you think you are? But again, take the risk, let people know what you're thinking. Like you said, and I think it might be women, have that problem, or challenge, I should say. Um, yeah, just speak your mind,
Did you,
tactfully, of course. And I'm
right.
sorry,
No, I was going to
tactfully
say,
speak
yeah.
up for yourself. I remember having problems, growing up also just saying what you want without like crying, you know. It's just like, you're asking for something and you get real nervous. But if you don't ask for yourself, who's going to do it? If you don't stand up for yourself, who's going to stand up for you? So you just need to do it yourself. Again, it's very easy for me to say sitting here in California. I remember what it was like, and it's hard. It's hard to do, but you feel so much better when you do it. I remember if you don't ask for something, you never know what's going to happen. When I worked on ER, I had come from right after Cosby. There was nothing happening, and everybody had in the last year ER Cosby. I got to write an episode, and everybody said you have to go out to California because that's where the work is. And so that was scary enough, which we can talk about later. But I got my job on ER, and I was a script coordinator. Worked my way up to become a staff writer. John Wells, who was a big producer, read my material, gave me a freelance to try me out, and then put me on the staff. But uh, the way that came about is at the end of every season, he would meet with the heads of departments, and I was the script coordinator, head of that little department. And I said to him, I just asked for it. I said, how about making me a staff writer, after, the freelance thing. And he said, he thought about it. He said, well, let me think about it. I think we have some money in the budget. I think it would be good. And then 2 weeks later, I got on staff. And he might have thought of me at that, but if I hadn't asked for it at that moment, it might not have ever happened. So, because I said I have this opportunity, I don't want to squander it. Let me just ask for it. It was hard to do, but sometimes asking for something, it's not that they're just not thinking of you maybe in a certain way, or they have other concerns. Again, don't worry about what other people are thinking about you because they're not thinking about you. And that's not to say it'd be an insult. It's just there's so many other things happening in life. So if you're interested in something, you can ask in a nice way, or how about this? I think I'd be good at whatever. And you just have to have a voice, have your own voice. Um, and it might take you years to get it, but just work on getting your voice and asking for what you want.
Such incredible advice. And I love that they're not really thinking of you. And I actually use that phrase for myself and for my children because my children will be like, well, I think this. And I said, they're not thinking about you.
Yeah.
They're really not thinking about you. It's like we think that, everyone thinking over that conversation the same we are. I should have said it this way, and they've moved on.
They moved on. But again, it's not an insult to you. That's just how life goes.
Right. That's just the way humans are.
Yeah.
Did you have any experiences where you felt like, and I certainly have, where you're concerned that you'll be too assertive? Because that's like the conundrum that we talk about, especially in the 80s and 90s. Like if you ask for something, or if you're assertive or you get upset, you're just being emotional, or
well, I always remember from going to school, and when I went to school, it was like, for women, don't cry at work. If you need to cry, go into the ladies' room and cry. You just don't want to cry. Nobody wants to see that, and it just makes it just muddles things up. I'm trying to think. What was your question again?
Well, I just was wondering if you had ever, if anyone had ever considered you as being too assertive, or if
no, because I don't think I was.
Not. I think that's the fear.
I think I was learning to be assertive, and that's not a bad word. It's different than aggressive. Aggressive is different than assertive. Assertive is just speaking up for yourself and saying no, but again, in a tactful way. You're being professional, and and if there is a problem, say, well, we can't do that, but how about this? Like, try to come up with a solution for whatever it is that somebody wants you to do that you don't want to do, or you don't think is correct, or you have a different opinion. There's a tactful way of doing it, and I think there's a lot of books of how to deal with difficult people. In your careers, you're going to come to find that there's a lot of people out there that they're insecure, and they're going to try to take it out on you, or they're just bullies. And you need to know there's people you're going to work with that you don't like, but you have to work with them. That was one thing that when I was at ABC, I had the opportunity. They had a program where they sent women managers from all different ABC properties, whether it was radio, television, publishing. And we went for a month up in Boston, and they sent us to like a month-long mini MBA program to learn kind of like how to break the glass ceiling. And it was just for women, which was fabulous. So again, met a lot of people from all over the company. In fact, a woman who I met then, when I moved to California, I slept on her couch for like a month until I found a job and got an apartment. So again, it's those connections. But it was for women managers to go up there to learn more teamwork. I think as women, we feel we have to do everything ourselves, or nobody could do it better than me, which I have a type A personality, so I feel that way. But we have to learn teamwork and rely on other people. And I know that I, again, like to do everything myself, perfectionist type of thing. So we would go, we had classes and business and all this stuff, but it was so much homework that one person couldn't do it themselves. So they made you have study groups. So Julie, you're good at business because you came from accounting over at this ABC company. You'll handle all the math. I'll do the English, you do this. And you had to rely on people, your fellow students, to do the homework. And most women are like, well, I'll stay up all night and I'll do this all by myself. And you had to like trust the other people to get the work done. They kind of, and it was different. It's different now. Girls play sports. When I was growing up, there was no Title IX, was it? That for everybody, you have to have sports.
Exactly.
And they equated it to guys and boys being on sports teams from the very early age. And they have teammates and they have to rely on them. And even if you don't like Joe playing at third base, you have to throw to Joe and, work with him and be on a team with him. And women back then, didn't have this teamwork. They didn't have the soccer and the lacrosse and softball and everything like that to learn to rely on teamwork. So that was a big thing that we learned at this mini MBA thing, is like to surround yourself with really good people, don't micromanage, and let other people do their jobs.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that was one thing
Yeah,
about being a
definitely the
woman. Yeah.
teamwork. I know that our students, and I'm just thinking about back to my undergraduate days. I hated group projects. I wanted to do it all myself. And I know
Right.
that when we give group projects as professors, students will complain. And one of the things, and Karen and Breaker and I have been talking about this sometimes, is that students need to learn you're going to have people that you don't like that you're going to have to work with, and they're going to
Hmm.
let you down. And that's all part of maturing and learning. And
It's hard. Yeah, it's very hard. And you said one thing about women, and I was one thing of like, I I can't believe I let this go, but when I was ABC, I was looking for, you get a raise. And my white old boss at the time, male, had said to me, this other person was getting a bigger raise because he was married and had children, or he was married, I think, at the time. I don't think he had kids. And I just accepted that, which today it just enrages me, just because this guy was married, that he should make more money than me, which yeah, that I would get aggressive now about that. But
not just
that's one.
assertive.
But again, that was, I don't know if that still goes on, but that was a different time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a
Yeah,
different time.
yeah.
I've told my students before, again, things about like my mother's generation, women couldn't have credit cards without their husband.
I
And
think till 1974 or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So certainly a lot of advantages that they have now. But again, I think that still is a struggle. So
Oh,
thank you so
sure.
much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can even sometimes see the dynamic in my classroom where, sometimes you'll have like female students who don't want to speak up and that sort of
Well,
thing.
that's it. It's, and sometimes it's the bias of the teacher. They're
Oh,
picking on male students more than they do women, or men interrupting women, men having to mansplain things. It's like that still goes on, I'm sure.
yeah, definitely. Let's take
Not
you
to man,
back.
not to man bash.
No, it's really not. And again, and I tell my students I teach a lot of gender studies courses, and it's not the men, it's the patriarchy. There's two
Mhm.
different. It's a
Yeah,
system,
yeah,
and it's a system which not does not behoove men either, because men have statistically higher rates of heart disease and
yeah,
stress related things, because it is breadwinning is not enough. You have to, it's just a lot of stress for in terms of
exactly.
and masculinity
Yeah.
as well. So definitely. Let's talk about your time at Glassboro State and
Okay.
things like the like. I know the students wanted to know what experiences, whether it's WGLS or what courses that you took that really helped you get where you are today, or things that you may even still use in your day to day.
Great. Well, at Glassboro, I was a journalism major, and I think I chose that only growing up. I wanted to be like Lois Lane on the Daily Planet with Superman as my boyfriend and running around with my photographer taking pictures. I just really gravitated to that and went to Glassboro because they had a really good program. I had an internship at I don't even know if the Gloucester County Times has it changed. I don't know if it's still around, if it's the Woodbury Times now. I had an internship at a local during the summer when you come home. I had a internship at a local radio station in Plainfield, New Jersey. So I was always looking for outside things to add to my studies. Again, a lot of journalism courses, writing courses, editing. At the time, there wasn't really TV. Maybe there was an intro to broadcasting, intro to television. It was the TV station was, I think, one little black and white camera on some sticks, and that was about it. It's
Wow.
not like it is now. I was recently back at the campus and saw the great studio and the boards you have. Um, and that's terrific. I wish it was there when I was there. So mostly journalism courses. I took an astronomy. I think now I had French also, which doesn't help me at all, unless I want to work on The Walking Dead, the Daryl Dixon spinoff. In fact, my old showrunner from ER runs that, David Zabel.
Oh,
So, when he was, I was like, I speak some French, you know, I'll learn it. I'll lie and learn it again.
Yeah.
Uh, um, so I think I would have taken more classes outside my major. I think that's really important to, you know, more history classes. I had an astronomy class that was really fun. I took the history of jazz, which was fun. I think I would have, especially for television, taken some drama classes. And even, you know, I took some acting lessons here, not to become an actress, that's for sure, but to learn how actors, the words coming out of their mouth, it's very hard. I mean, I was too self-conscious, like I am acting now. It's really good acting is so it looks effortless, but it's really hard. So I would take drama classes. I would probably get up there and try to act just to have that experience. There's just you know, I've looked through the catalog. There's so many fun things that I would want to take. But I know you only have so many, it costs money and you have so many credits you have to get. But I would try to broaden more just out of your public relations, your advertising, and get a broader sense because you could always use that in your work. Uh, you know, and join any activities. One, it's fun. Two, you meet a lot of new friends. I have friends from Glassboro still, my college roommates. We still get together and talk. I just talked to them, one of them last night. Maybe somebody, I told them about it. They could be on this Zoom right now. We still get together. Well, we've been doing Christmases together since we graduated. We do, the ladies, we do without the husbands or boyfriends, do our spa weekends down at Long Beach Island, you know. So
Love
the
it.
people you meet are your friends. So I just would take a lot of different courses, try something fun, different activities. One thing I would have done more is read more when I'm there. I know it's like you're partying and you have classes, you might probably have school work, you have a job, you might have two jobs, you're helping your family. But try to read more, especially if you want to write, whether you're a TV writer or, you know, you want to write movies, even in public relations or advertising. You know, read anything you could get your hands on, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, poetry, newspapers, magazines. Read other scripts. There's online places, and I could give it to Julie after this is over. Places online where you can actually read a script from one of your favorite, you know, Poker Face or, you know, whatever show that you're interested in, movie scripts, and just learn. You know, one, is fun to read that, but you can learn and analyze how they're writing, why a certain, you know, scene comes after another scene, how they build their characters. So reading, you know, go to the library if you can, as much as you can, you know, and also if you want to write, just write, you know. Again, it's hard with all the activities and obligations you have, but you know, get up 15 minutes earlier if you can, or run right at lunchtime, or while you're waiting in line at Starbucks, you know, come and jot down things, or speaking to your phone, and, you know, just come up with some ideas and things. But Glassboro, I just love Glassboro a lot. And when I'm stressed out here, sometimes I have dreams about Glassboro. It's weird, though, that all my friends who are our age now are moving back into Laurel. Laurel was our dorm the first year, and we would Laurel Hall, and we would all be there, which was strange because we're all, you know, older, and it's like, oh, you're leaving your husband to come back to school, okay. But that would always be a fun kind of de-stress kind of dream that I was back at school. That's how much I loved it.
I always have dreams about school where there's a test that I haven't been going to the class, and then I show up and there's a test. Sometimes I have that one. But I hope our students are jotting down notes from you right now, Karen, because there was like 6 or 7 like amazing pieces of
Oh,
advice just in that.
okay.
It really, really, truly.
Interrupt me if I keep going on and on.
No, I mean, seriously, there was like I was just thinking of all these things that you kept saying. One, I think this broad-based general liberal arts education is so important. And I think in our industry, in academia, we see this shift to very specialized education, right? You know, and not taking gen eds. And again, I have twins who are seniors, and they're like, I'm going to have to take all these gen ed courses my first 2 years when I go to college. And I said, yes,
Right.
it's to make you a well-rounded person. And I have the other one wants to do writing and game art. The other wants to be an actor. And he's trying to decide between BA programs and BFA programs. And there's nothing wrong with the BFA program, but it can tend to be, you take all of these classes and
I
you
know,
don't
but
have
you're
time.
so excited though. You want to get into that. You want to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And
Right.
and if you are doing that, great. But try to learn things outside of that, whether on your own, whether reading about different subjects or going to the theater or go to when's the last time you went to a museum and saw some art? Um, Everything can help you with whatever you're doing in life as experiences. Again, you can't travel to England, uh, take a train ride, go or take a ride somewhere and see something else, or, just go to a seminar, go, listen to music. That always helps. It just keep learning. And I think that helps whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So, and you think that you definitely you draw on those experiences in your writing.
Yeah. I mean, uh, your life experiences, or the people you meet, the characters you create. It could be somebody that you met, 30 years ago. Well, not for your students, but somebody they met online, or a funny uncle, or just something for your characters. When you're reading books, you're not stealing their ideas, but it's like, oh, that's an interesting way that they phrase that person, or what that person does, or I wonder if I could turn it on its head and do it this way. I think you absorb from other writers without copying them at all. That's with this whole thing with AI. That, I just came off 150 days of a strike of
Right.
walking in the heat and picketing, all of that. Some of the signs were really funny. Like, AI doesn't have my childhood trauma. Like, AI isn't emotional. AI is a plagiarism software that steals ideas, steals phrases from other sources. And if you want to write, it's from your own head. It's not somebody else's work. Think of your favorite movies and TV shows. That didn't come from a computer. It came from somebody's mind. And why not come from yours?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, um, it's your own experience. AI doesn't have your background, whether it's a family tragedy or family joys, or um, humor and funny. I come originally from comedy, and even when we were working on ER or Criminal Minds, I could still be a little funny in the beginning with Criminal Minds. Aisha Tyler would always know it was my script, because I always try to put something funny in the little teaser in the beginning, but then when the bodies started piling up, you couldn't be funny.
Right.
But your own life is the source of what you can write, or your own imagination, not some computer.
And that relates to actually two questions, that one I had, and the one that student had. Students wanted to know, like, when you sit in front of now the computer screen and it's a blank screen, like,
Yeah.
how do you start writing? And then related to that, because I know we talked about AI a little bit, some people argue that AI is a starting point, that you start with AI and then so what's your advice on getting started? And I mean, I think a little is related to writer's block too, if you want to touch on that, but the blank screen
Yeah.
in front of you, how do you get started? And do you think there's a role for AI in that, or not?
Um, no, I don't think. Well, I haven't tried it. I'm not doing chat GPT. Um, well, it depends. You got a blank screen. It's like, what are you writing? Like, is it a press release? Is it a treatment for a movie? Is it an outline for a TV script? Is it some ad copy? Like, is it a letter? Is it a professional letter asking for advice? Um, I guess yeah, you're looking at the white screen, a little cursor there. It's like, what do I do? You rather like clean your sock drawer or listen to music or something. Um, In television, we have a phrase, and it's not very nice, but we call it when you write and you know it's just going to stink. We call it your vomit draft. You're just blah, putting it out there. And everybody does their vomit draft. They know it's not going to be good, but you just want to get stuff out of your head and you write it down. But inside of that draft are some nuggets that you can use, and you start, editing, and you get rid of that line, and oh, that's stupid, and blah blah blah, and then you see that there's something there, and that's where you go from. So that's really kind of what you do. You just get it out there. What do you want to say? Even it's really bad writing, and you're just putting it down. It just gets you going, and you see words on the screen, and it'll start your juices flowing. For writer's block, I go take a walk, or I take the dog for a walk. I seem to find ideas in the shower and washing dishes. And I don't know, it's the sound of water or something. Maybe get yourself a sound machine and put on if you like ocean sounds, or you like frogs and wildlife or something. For me, ideas sometimes comes out of the blue. So a lot of times, you'll talk into your phone, or, I still like putting a pen to paper, because to me that puts it in your mind more. It just, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. I mean, writing for me sometimes is not fun. What's fun, it's done, and look what I did, and oh, I really like that scene, or I like that one line, or that's a funny comment. It's hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would be doing it. But the difference between them and you is that you're doing it. You're sitting there and you're trying your best to do it. And that's the difference. A lot of people want to do it, say they want to be a writer. I'm going to be a writer, but you just have to write. I mean, that's the advice, is just write, because it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it gets, and it's easier for you to get in there. And if you have writer's block, don't feel bad about it, because even the best writers in the world, the people like showrunners I have worked with, have writer's block, or they doubt themselves. I mean, a really big writer, I had to proof their work as a script coordinator. You're proofing it, looking for typos, continuity problems. And he was like, is this okay, do you think? And he wasn't fishing for compliments. He was like, he said he had like imposter syndrome. Yes. He was waiting for them to come and find that he didn't know what he was doing. And this is a very successful writer. So it doesn't matter what level you're at. Everybody feels insecure about their writing. I don't know if this is any good. They're going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. I should just quit. So just power through it. It will come to you. Again, get that first blah out there, and it'll get better.
That's fantastic. I read an article one time that there's some sort of I can't remember where it was, that there's some sort of science behind water and being
really?
in water.
Okay.
I read it. I'll have to see if I have to find it. Like in the Atlantic or something. It was like, did you think of that idea in the shower? Like there's science to back that up. And I had a professor in graduate school. I tell folks this story sometimes, who made us turn in drafts and do things according to the phases of the moon. Have you ever heard of that?
No. Was he a werewolf? I don't know.
He was not a werewolf, but he was like, I think he was like a Cuban American, but he was like a shaman or something.
Okay.
And he said that there's like some sort of like the creativity, like you're supposed to write during the creative part. And then like, I think when the moon is waving, we all thought he was just nuts. We just all thought he was Nutty McNutville. We were just like, you're crazy.
You know what? Whatever helps you. If you
whatever.
Blaring metal rock music to help you, I have to have it quiet. I can't have music going, because then I start singing and thinking or want to dance. I have to have it quiet. But if you like rock music, if you want to be, I don't know how people work like in a busy Starbucks or something, put headphones on, and whatever you need to do. Like there's no one way to do it. You want to get up early and do it. You want to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning and do it. Everybody has their own, the phases of the moon, you're wearing your favorite color, your sports team won. it's a good day, it's sunny, it's rainy, whatever strikes you. And again, don't like listen to people where like you have to write every day. And but you know what? Sometimes life gets in the way, and your life
Yeah.
gets in the way, and you have obligations and family things, or again, you're studying, you're working, you have COVID, like things, life happens, and that's okay. But keep at it, keep writing. I'm sure there are stories in you that you want to tell that you think are exciting. One thing also, it's a very solitary job. Like if you're not on a writing staff, if you're just you at home, wherever you are, um, it's solitary. So I would suggest, if you can, if you're at school, if there's a writers group that you can join with like-minded people to talk about story, to bounce ideas off of, to get constructive criticism. That's one thing, to learn how to take it and give it.
Yes.
And if there isn't one, maybe start a writers group. Get some friends, ask some people in your class, and start a writers group, and meet once a week, meet once every 2 weeks, whatever, once a month, and have deadlines when people, okay, it's your turn to turn in pages. I need deadlines, so maybe you do too. But that way you're always thinking about writing, you're bouncing ideas off of people. That I was one thing I would suggest to do is get with other like-minded people and continue to learn the craft.
That's great advice, and also helps, like you said, with your colleague with imposter syndrome too, because I think a lot of people face that. And so if you can
Yeah.
have someone else read it, I still have my mother read things. God bless her, because you need somebody who, a lot of times in my field, we want people, we can get really academic-y real fast, and I want lay people, for lack of a better word, to be able to read it and understand, because I write about pop culture. So I want someone that's educated but isn't necessarily in the field to read it. So you can also find
Right.
people
Exactly.
like
You want
that.
you want people that just won't say, "Oh, I love it," like
Yes.
a parent or a family member saying, "I love it. It's the best. You're wonderful." That's great for your ego, but you need somebody to really tell you,
And that's
give
also
you
my
some
mother, by
criticism.
the way. My mother may be on this call, but my mother will always tell me the truth. So if she thinks it's garbage, she
and
will. So, but find a person
and
that'll tell
yeah,
you the truth, definitely.
uh, the uh, the other thing, I think it was William Goldman said that 99% of writing is rewriting. So you will be rewriting things. I am taking a pitch out right now to sell a television show based on a true crime podcast.
Ooh,
We were
exciting.
at ABC Network this week. Yesterday was CBS. We're going to Fox on Monday. Um, and I wrote a pitch, which I have to like talk about the characters and the world and the tone and some of the pilot and the season arcs. But I'm on my fifth pitch. And so the first thing you write is not going to be the end. And if you get more than one, like the rule is somebody gives you a note, this section doesn't work. And you might disagree, but if more than one person tells you that, you need to
Right.
look at that section again. Don't feel that your words are so precious that you can't change them. Rewriting really helps your writing get better. But there might be people out there who are, geniuses and can write a really good first draft, but you go through many drafts when you're writing in television and movies and yeah. So it's just yeah, with the writers group or writing, it's just constant rewriting to make it better.
Which you won't get with AI. I was just laughing to myself thinking, I wonder if you ask AI to write you another draft. I wonder, I mean, if you probably can, but like, write me about this, and it, spews out stuff, and like, write me a second draft of that. I would be curious to know. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
going to use it,
but
but
yeah, I don't know, but uh, you
I'm
want it,
thinking it
yeah.
probably won't. I'm probably, so that I'm just thinking again
They
about sort of the
probably,
criticism
yeah.
of AI. It's not going to help you with that.
No, I mean, it just would take the same words and put them in a different way.
Right.
They're like,
Different way.
where's the
Right.
emotion? Where's the, you can tell the difference between an AI and a real person's, a human. And the Writers Guild fought against that. And, an AI cannot take credit. You can't use it if we don't want to use it. a studio would have to tell a writer if something they're giving to rewrite has been generated by AI. I mean, there's a lot of rules now, and I and the actors. I mean, if you're an actor, do you really want your body scanned and let the studios use your image in perpetuity, give you a little bit of money, and then use them anytime they want?
I
And
was even a
or
little
voice actors,
weirded
and
out.
not and just use your voice over and over again for whatever they want, and you don't get the health, and you don't get the pension, and you don't get paid. It's like it's they're insane.
Yeah, I was just saying, Harrison Ford. I said I was even a little weirded out about Harrison Ford being de-aged in the latest Raiders
Yeah,
movie. Remember that?
right.
Which I'm sure he gave his consent for,
He
but
gave his consent for, and he was in the movie. It wasn't like
and
they
he
just
was in the
used
movie.
it and he had
Right,
nothing to do with it, or
right.
taking Marilyn Monroe and putting her in a movie today. It's like
Yeah,
strange.
I teach a course called Images of Gender and Pop Culture, and one of the sections we do is on advertisements. And years ago, maybe even still 10 years ago, my students were just incredulous that there would be highly manipulated models that weren't real people. You
Mhm.
know, they knew Photoshop would, you know, make their
Sure.
thighs, you know, they were, but now, and now, I mean, even if you go on social media, like you can see people that aren't real people that are being, you know, images of beauty. So we have
Yeah.
time for one more question for me. And then if
Okay.
you're available for a little time after, it's usually an hour,
Exactly.
15 minutes for the course time. We'll see if we have things in the chat. So my final question for you is, and from some of the students, what keeps you energized? What keeps you going? What keeps you in California doing the work? What is it that you love?
Well, I lived in New York before coming out here, and I still love New York. And I still have my apartment in New York in my 212 area code number. Because when I came out here, I was like, I don't know if I'll make it or not. And the thing is, you can always go home again.
Yeah.
So if you do move somewhere, or you try, you can say it didn't work out. I tried it, and you could always move home again. But I came out here and I did find success. The weather is great in
Yes.
California. Uh, depending on where you live, there's a drought going on now, and you don't want to live where the fires are, but I don't. But it's just a very exciting place. I mean, you're telling stories for a living, and meeting some celebrities, which is fun. I'm still a geek about that. Or walking on the Warner Brothers lot during ER, and in our stage where we shot ER, they shot Casablanca. They shot Mildred
Wow.
Pierce. You walk by the
Wow.
Friends stage. It's just magical. That's really what it is. It's magical. Um, what keeps me here is, I guess, the work. I mean, if it wasn't for, I don't know if I'd be living here if I wasn't in this business. Um, and at some time, if you really want to be a television writer or a screenwriter, someday, at some point, you probably will have to either move to New York or move to California someday. But I don't want to scare you, because there's so much production going on around the country. I just was in Atlanta. Tyler Perry built his own studio. I happened to look at the Georgia Film Office site. And all states, wherever you are, look up the Office of Film and Television, the governor's, the state office. Georgia has a film site that actually has like links for classes and for industry jobs for Georgians who want to work in the industry. So you don't necessarily have to, if you have to stay where you are, check out the local, what's filming in your state that you can go maybe get an internship with, or 5-10 minutes with the director if it's a director that you love. So I guess it's the work that really keeps me out here, new friends and family. And there's airplanes, and I can go back to New Jersey. I could go back to New York anytime I want to, which is exciting. But I think it's the work, and it's just an exciting, and I still get geeked out about it. It's still an exciting profession.
Wonderful. Do you think there are more virtual jobs now? I'm just asking for the students, or you would definitely need to move
Um,
eventually.
No, I mean, for writers' rooms, some, before the pandemic, it was 5 days a week. You're in the room, conference room with all the other writers, and you're working from like 10 to 5, 10 to 6, late nights if, you have a problem with a story. COVID happened and it all went to Zoom. When I was on Supergirl, it was totally on Zoom. There was like 10 of us writers, and you just send in scripts. You email things in, and that's how we did notes. We used Google Docs for the whiteboard. A whiteboard is where you put down all the ideas and you break the story. And it's still, some people don't want to come back in person still. Some rooms are
Right.
Zoom, some are hybrid, so that you have to come in a couple days a week. I know production, a UPM, a production person for the new Criminal Minds at Evolution show. She moved to Montana and can do the work from Montana without having to be,
Oh gosh, great.
there, and just comes occasionally to California for the show. But she does all of her, like a lot of work out of there. But if you're like into set decoration or a set decorator or be a
Right.
grip or lighting, you have to be in one of those areas. Or when we did Army Wives, we shot that in South Carolina, and there was a studio there, and the crews would come from North Carolina and other places, and live there for the length of the show. I mean, a lot of people do that too. They'll come and they'll say, so maybe you have a relative that lives in another state that you can stay with, or you and your classmate want to be roommates and come out to California at some time and try it. I mean, that's another way to do it too. But someday, if you really, really want to do this, you're going to probably have to move, for being a writer anyway, for television. And the only other thing I'll say about that is, and I don't know whether it's the generation now or whatever, but it might not happen in a year. It might not
Right.
happen in 2 years. It might not happen for 5 years till you get that break. And you just have to be patient. I think maybe now with binging television and having television when you want on demand, it's making everybody and viewers impatient. And social media, oh my
Absolutely.
God, social media. That's one thing. If you have a writer's break, get off of social media. Just take a break from that thing. It's just very negative and it makes you feel bad, and FOMO and everything. It just might not happen right away. You might say, oh, if it's not for 6 months, 6 months is nothing. Again, 3 months going into England. It might have happened for a long time, but hang in there if this is what you really, really want to do.
Amazing advice. And definitely I can see the instantaneous. I actually had to put on my syllabus that students needed to give me 24 hours. They're lovely about it, but like give me
Yeah.
24 hours before I respond to your email, because I would get, students who were like, I emailed you an hour ago. And I was like, okay, I was in
Yeah.
class. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. And
Yeah.
I usually well before 24 hours. I usually try to get back right away, but it
Yeah.
was literally like, they hadn't heard from me in an hour. I was like, it
Right.
isn't texting, I love you. We'll get to your question. Yep. The chat there's lots of activity in the
Oh, sure.
chat, which is a testament to how great you've been and all of this wonderful advice you've been giving. So one of the students had asked about that they have experience in a lot of different areas.
Hmm.
So they said they are a multimedia production major. They want to work on the editing side of productions, but they like writing, and so it feels overwhelming to them. They want to do everything they're creative they can have, so they can. So, what is your advice for someone who wants to do it all in the creative fields?
Um, well, there's a lot of people who are writers, actors, producers, directors. I would say to that person, have they done their own? I don't know if they're, TV or movie. Write your own script, and nowadays you can film it on your iPhone and then edit it yourself. I mean, this person sounds terrific. I mean, um, why not do your own movie, do your own TV show, and you could upload it on the internet. The great thing now is that you don't just have to do one thing. If you have a camera or something, or just again your iPhone, and just do it yourself. Um, I was going to say, if you go someplace, maybe smaller production houses, you can do more things. If you're in the industry, there are unions. So like as a writer in the Writers Guild, I can't go and edit because I'm not in that union. I can't touch a camera. I can't touch a light and I can't, if I'm on a set and I have my Back to the Future mug, which is one of my favorite movies, and I
It's
need
also
this.
on Broadway now.
Oh, I know. I have to go see that. I need this cup to go over there with that actor. I can't pick it up and bring it over there because that's a union job and I get in trouble. So I have to ask somebody to go, can you please take that over there? And I don't want the red cup. I want the blue cup, So, so a multi-person who likes to do everything, you're not going to be able to do that in a professional setting. But if, in a smaller production house, or even just now to get all those creative juices out that it sounds like this person has, go and write your own script, hire some actors, do a little casting session with people. There's so many people out there who just looking to get their reels for acting, especially at school, if there's some acting people or you have a drama thing, hire them, feed them some pizza. You don't have to pay them, and have them be in your production, and then, edit it yourself and get it out to some festivals if you want to. If you think it's that good, use it as a calling card to get your jobs.
Fantastic. That's really great to talk to the students about unions, because I don't think the students understand how a union operates. I think they go on strike, like the union went on strike, and that's what they do. But it is definitely, you will have
unions
to
are great. Unions
yeah.
are protection.
They protect you.
They protect you. They protect you so you're not taken advantage of. We could go into all the things that they do for you, but if you're lucky enough to get into a union, whether it's the writers or the actors, IATSE, the Teamsters, it's a good thing to try to get into. And if you're going to work in this business, then in the industry professionally, you're going to be working with unions.
I saw that the chat is so active that I'm having to scroll. But someone asked, I'm trying to get it exactly. Somebody had a really great question about writing for television and for episodes. It was John. Let me find it. It's basically, and I'll find it, but I'll ask you now. If you have different writers for different episodes, say of a sitcom, how are the writers selected? That was the question.
Oh, okay. How are the writers selected for a certain episode?
Yes.
Say you're, on Criminal Minds, and the season starts, and you have, I forget how many writers we had. Say we had 8 writers, and you have 22 in broadcast. There's 22 episodes. Usually there had been, that might change now because after the strikes, some things have to get corrected, and some of your favorite shows might be only 10 episodes or 8. But if you have 22 episodes, usually the higher up, like the showrunner, who's the executive producer, they usually take the first couple episodes to start the series off, get it off on its feet. And then other people around the room are selected, usually by, the co-executive producer will get the next one, and maybe the supervising producer, and it goes down. Usually the staff writer, the lowest level, there's different levels of writing. They'll get one later in the season when everything is up and running, so that if there's any problems or if their script needs a little more help, there's a little more time to do that. So, I'll take an episode 3, Julie will be 4, anybody else on we'll just go around the room, and you get your episode. You're assigned an episode. So while they're talking about Julie's, I'm thinking about mine, so that when it's my turn, I'll start talking about my ideas about what we could be doing. And as I'm doing that, Julie's off writing her outline. And then so on and so on and so on. So then when I'm writing my outline, the next person is talking about their episode. And then if you come in with an idea about a character that you're really excited about, maybe they'll, it's a subject that about, they'll give it to you. Like I'm like a fire buff. I like anything with firefighting, and have done work with the fire department in New York. And maybe there's something about a big fire happening on Chicago Fire, and I'm working on that show, and it has to do with kids. they might give it to me because I know about, big fires and things like that. So even your subject area, say in college you were a French major and has something to do with France, they might give it to you. So everybody gets their own episode. Everybody writes their own dialogue. Everybody writes their own action lines. You do the in broadcast, you do everything yourself.
Right. And if we have time, two more quick questions because I see them recurring.
Mhm.
One is to how to find an agent if you have a script or something like that. And then the second one is any books on screenwriting or books about the job that you would recommend.
Yeah. How to get an agent or a manager. That's hard.
Is that the correct terminology? I don't even know what the correct terminology
Yeah,
is.
there are agents and there are managers, and both of them are good.
Okay.
I have right now I have both. So I have a manager and an agent. You don't need both, but I like a bigger team behind me, so more people who could find me opportunities. I have to pay 10% to the manager and 10% of my salary
Well,
to the agent. That's
good to
20% off
know.
the top before taxes. Um, but that's okay. I'd rather, and I don't pay them if I'm not making any money. It's when I make money, that's when you pay somebody. So while you're looking for agents and managers, that's one thing to look at. You don't pay anybody up front. They only take the
Mm,
money when you make money.
good
Um,
to know.
there's list of agencies, they're in California, but there are a lot of them in New York, and there's other smaller literary agencies elsewhere. So in your state, look them up. But you can be, if you're in Florida, if you're in Missouri, wherever you are, you can be represented by somebody that's in New York or in California. You don't have to be there for that. If you have a good script, do not send it to them blindly. Agents and managers will not accept just blind submissions.
Great to
Usually,
know.
you'll write a letter saying a fantastic story about yourself and how you have this great idea for a love story in space or whatever your story is. Give them what your log line is. Just give them a log line, and I'm sure if you're writing, you know what that is. And that how much you're looking for representation and would love for this person to represent you. And then you send them that, you email them that. And then they'll either say, yes, I'm looking for new people to represent, or they won't, or they won't hear anything. Don't be insulted. Or they'll just say, no, I'm sorry, we're not looking for anybody. But do not send your script without before blindly. Don't do that. If you know anybody who has an agent or a manager, ask them if they would recommend you. A lot of times, people won't. Agents don't want to take on people unless somebody else recommends them. I was looking for an agent when I was on ER, and nobody was taking anybody. But when I got my first ER episode, all of a sudden they all wanted to sign me. Isn't that amazing that the people that didn't want to sign me before, they want somebody else to take a chance on you before they're lazy. I'm sorry. They want somebody else to take a chance on you. So the big thing is through contacts. Do you know any agents or managers? Does your friend's uncle have any connection? Is there somebody at your gym, at your synagogue, at your church, somewhere? Does somebody have a connection? It's all about connections and networking. That's a big thing, but also the cold calling and follow up on that letter. Follow up on a cold call. You'll never be surprised at how many people don't follow up on letters that they send or emails that they send. So I would say get the list of managers, and you could just Google that, like list of literary managers, and just kind of cold call and send letters to see who will read your script. And again, don't send it out and don't pay anybody for it.
Yes.
Try to, if you have a script, one way to get noticed is through festivals and contests, legitimate
That was
ones.
actually a question. Sorry to interrupt you. That was a
Yeah,
question. Should they go to festivals?
go to festivals. The blacklist is a big thing. And if it's like, oh, that script is fantastic, that's a way to you want to get noticed. So it's whether it's script or if you make your you make a movie or you have a scene from your script and you put it up and somebody's like, that's really interesting, I want to know more about it. I think festivals and contests that are legitimate is good. There is a organization called the Script Writers Network. And when I first came out here, I joined it only because I had gotten advice from, again, a friend of a friend of a friend. A woman I knew was friends with the sister of the director, Don Roos, Roos. And she did me a favor and said, hey, you think Don would talk to my friend Karen, who just moved to California? So he actually picked up the phone. He did this movie Bounce and The Opposite of Sex. He did a lot of things. And he's married to an actor, Dan Bukatinsky, who was on Scandal. I think it was Scandal. Yeah. Anyway, Don called me, was very kind, gave me advice about the industry, like we're talking here. And he had suggested the Scriptwriters Network. It's a nonprofit thing. You don't have to live in California. Even there's a student rate to join, and it's all about contests. They have speakers, they have a newsletter, and it's really very good for people starting out to learn about the business and to hear about things and just to hear experts talking about the field and all different things. So I did that, and it's fun. Just recently, after the strike, there was a fundraiser for the actors, and it was at a big theater downtown. So I was in the parking lot paying, and I turn around, and it's this guy, Dan Bukatinsky, who is married to this director, Don Roos, who I talked to in the year 2000. And I blurted out, sounded like a crazy woman, explaining the situation to him, saying, your husband helped me 20 something years ago. I never got, the chance to tell him that his advice worked out. Well, Dan pulled out his cell phone, called Don on the phone, gave me the phone, and I was able to talk to this director, Don Roos, and thank him again for all the advice 23 years ago.
Wow, fantastic.
And it just was such a strange Hollywood kind of situation. But again, you never know who knows who to give you advice. So I'm sorry, long answer about how to get a manager and agent.
Amazing.
But just it's through connections and cold calling.
And any books? Last question. I know we're over, and I appreciate all your time.
Sure,
any books
I'm sorry.
They should read? No. I want to keep
and
you.
I will have a list. I don't know if there's some way to get them to everybody at some point. One thing that I'm a big fan of Stephen King, and he has a book called On Writing.
Yes. One of my twins read that.
It's not about horror writing at all.
Right.
And it just has tips and advice about writing. That one is a good one. I do have a whole list. Shoot. There's something called Save the Cat. I know that sounds very weird. Like, what does that have to do with TV writing and screenwriting? That is a good one. My boss from Army Wives just wrote a book that it's called Running the Show, Television from the Inside, that I'm sure that Jeff Melvoin is his name. It just is new. A lot of deep insights, great advice and things like that. Yeah, I have a list, and I'm sorry I don't have them with me right now.
That's okay. And you can, I'll be emailing you again. And so if you can send me a list, I can make sure that the students,
sure.
Students get it. But I didn't even think that they'd have that question, but they did. Lots of great questions, students. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry Karen, we didn't get to all of them.
No, it's fine. And maybe I'll send them to you if you, we'll figure something out. And, of course we could also do this again.
Well, that would be fantastic. Fun. Yeah, and, just take questions. You don't have to hear me speaking about me. I want to hear what they're. I'd like to know what they're up to and what they're watching and what they hope to do. I'm sure.
We'd love to have you back on campus.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fun too.
And if we could do that and have like a meet and greet or something in our new center space that we have.
That you're going to paint the wall, right? You're going to paint it.
We'll all paint the wall together. We'll have a painting party like they do. Right. We'll bring pizza and we'll paint walls. Karen, thank you so much. This has been just a fantastic workshop.
Well, I hope they all got something from it. One little thing, but just keep writing, keep doing it. I hope you can hire me in the future. That's just all I need.
You're
Just
the
keep
best.
hiring me.
You're just the best. One of Rowan's best and
Oh,
brightest.
thank
I'm
you.
so proud to call you a Rowan alum. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much. Take
Have a
care. We'll
great
see you
day.